When life gives you lemons, you make a multi-billion-dollar insurance company. This seems to be what company Lemonade has done, and today I want to discuss this disruptive, innovative, and exciting new stock that has the potential to be the insurance company of the future. Today, Lemonade trades at nearly a $3.5 billion market cap. It has a ticker symbol LMND. So it's a fairly small company today, which raises the question, based on the market that they are trying to go after, is this stock a huge opportunity for investors? So that's the discussion of today's video. You guys have requested time and time again for me to cover Lemonade stock, so here you go. All I ask in return, guys, is just hit that like button down below to show your support for the video. But either way, let's get into it. From a high level, Lemonade is an insurance company, but it's here to disrupt the way traditional insurance companies do their thing, and this is what makes it so interesting. The service is currently available in the United States, Germany, and Netherlands, and continues to expand globally. So right off the bat, we know this business is trying to be a global player, so that gives it a massive, massive reach and big potential. In the US, they offer homeowners insurance and renters insurance, and in Germany and Netherlands, they offer content and liability insurance. Their mission statement is simple. Using AI and behavioral economics, Lemonade wants to replace brokers and bureaucracy with bots and machine learning with the goal of zero paperwork and instant everything. Meaning you can get an estimate, sign up, and be insured without a hitch. The unique aspect of this business is that they give excess premiums to non-profits selected by its community during its annual give back. So this is a company that has a mission to give back right from its roots. Lemonade, in my opinion, is hitting the right chords here to resonate with millennials, and this could be the reason this company sees tremendous success. Now, this is the formula they go by. Number of customers multiplied by the premium charge per customer equals to the in-force premium. So they denote this in-force premium by INF, and it's essentially the aggregate annualized premium for customers as of the period end date. Now, using this formula, they give us a breakdown of how each of these steps is progressing for the company. The business currently has 814,000 customers right now, approaching that $1 million milestone, which at its current rate is growing at 84% year over year, which is phenomenal. Then they have their premium paid per customer, which is about $190 currently, and this, as expected, would grow slower as customers switch to Lemonade to save money. So they need to be competitive here, but they still grew this by 17% year over year. Now, all of this equals to their in-force premium of $155 million, which was growth of 115% year over year. Now you must be wondering from all of this, okay, great, they're growing massively, but what else is exciting about this business? What does their gross profits look like? You know, all those kind of metrics. So their gross earned premium, or GEP, sits at $35 million for the quarter, which is up an impressive 121% year over year. This tells me that there is a lot of strength in the high growth aspect of this business, and to pull in $35 million from $155 million in in-force premium is a good ratio, and as they scale the business, those hundreds of millions turns into hundreds of billions potentially, and you can just imagine how much higher their GEP will be. Next, they show us their gross loss ratio, and they define this as the ratio of losses and loss adjustment expense to gross earned premium. Year over year, this was an 18% decrease, so this is also trending in the right direction, because the lower this number is, the more profitable the company is as a result. Now, because of the global issue, there was a lot of concern, and not only about Lemonade, but this whole industry in general, because people were thinking, okay, if people are going to be in tough financial times, insurance is probably pretty low on their list of things to pay off. So in a statement to shareholders, Lemonade stated the following: with millions of people fired or furloughed and billions in lockdown, Lemonade entered Q2 on a defensive footing, and at the start of the quarter, we significantly slowed our marketing spending, suspended non-essential hiring, and also offered to defer customer payments. Then we braced for impact. We expected to see a spike in churn, a drop in demand, and a hit to our cash flow. Now, this is one of the benefits that I actually noticed about Lemonade and other businesses that are small but high growth, that they're able to adapt and change quick, pretty much a snap of the finger, and they're able to pivot a different direction to do what's best for the business. And that's kind of the interesting part and exciting part about these smaller high growth companies versus a large established business which has a lot of processes and employees, and there's a lot of red tape and stuff that goes on behind the scenes that needs to be done before change can be made. And the interesting is here, despite all this preparation that Lemonade went through, virtually none of the concerns that they had actually materialized. They saw less than 1% of their customer base defer their payments, while retention rates, click-through rates, and conversion rates all held steady. Furthermore, trends that they noticed before the global issue, like high growth, improving marketing efficiencies, and declining loss ratios, all continued trending in the right direction with no noticeable impact. All of this resulted in the company posting a surprising gross profit of $5.4 million in the quarter, which was an increase of $37 million or 218% year over year. That being said, it wasn't all good here for the business because expenses did increase in the quarter by 12% to $30.1 million versus $26.9 million in Q2 2019. So this was a significant bump up year over year, and they say this is primarily due to technology investments and general and administrative expenses that were driven by personnel growth and customer growth and were partially offset by lower sales and marketing expense. So what does all this mean? Is Lemonade profitable? Just tell us. The bottom line, net income was actually a net loss of $21 million for the quarter, but this improved by 9% year over year from Q2 2019. This does raise the question and concern, however, because didn't they just have phenomenal growth in the quarter? Yes, the answer is they did, and as you can see, many of their metrics doubled year over year, but even though things like revenue went from $13.8 million to $29.9 million, they still lost $21 million for the quarter, and they only decreased this by 9% year over year. So it really makes you wonder, how much revenue do they really have to pull in to become a profitable business? Now, I do realize that the revenue right now are still fairly small numbers, so as this grows into the hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, things should improve, but the future of this will really depend on many of the metrics we discussed today improving simultaneously. The business is aware of this concern and has done some recent restructuring to improve capital efficiency, so they expect their gross margins to increase substantially with this change, while GAAP revenue itself is expected to drop. But the end result is still an increase in the metrics that matter for this business and industry, an increase in earned premium and profits. Now, for those of you curious, if you want to see the new structure of how they are going to operate, pause the video here and read through this chart. Essentially, this is the go-forward strategy for the company when it comes to operating the business in hopes of improving the metrics that matter. Now, what I want to do is turn over to their balance sheet, because this right here is usually a big deciding factor on if a business is worth an investment or not. The cash for the business sits at $258 million, and total assets sit at just under $400 million. Now, what I did notice was that they both decreased year over year, and this is what happens with a growing company that is losing money quarter after quarter, because they need to keep feeding the fire essentially if you want to keep that momentum going, and that usually results naturally in assets of the business shrinking. Now, looking at their liabilities, one thing you may notice is that they list out unearned premium here on the balance sheet. Unearned premium, if you're not familiar, is premium that is still remaining for the period of time for the insurance policy. So until that period is done, it kind of sits as a liability for them. So really, in other words, on a balance sheet, this shows up as liability because if the insurer or customer cancels their premium, Lemonade pays them back the remaining amount. Taken directly from Lemonade's website, they say that you can cancel your policy at any time through the app and receive a refund for the remaining period that you've paid for. So naturally, this is a liability because, not all the money that they've taken in is completely theirs until that policy period ends. But due to the nature of the business, this will always have a line item on liabilities. However, that being said, I think we can actually remove this from our calculation because Lemonade has shown us that they have very low rates of cancellations and deferrals, so it's unlikely customers will cancel now that things have gotten better in the economy in general. As long as Lemonade is providing a good service that's, competitive and customers enjoy it, I see little to no reason for this to ever become a true liability for the business. So if you remove that, this puts our actual liabilities at $54.4 million, and compare this to the assets of $400 million or so, this is an extremely strong balance sheet, so no concerns here for me. So metrics so far have been looking pretty good, right? Like, they're growing at rapid clips, they have a very good balance sheet, they have a good plan, customers seem to be enjoying their product. However, what does their future outlook look like? What does their guidance look like for the rest of this year? Are they gonna, face some turbulent times, or are things gonna keep chugging along? In Q3, they expect their in-force premium to go up to $175 million on the high end, and at the end of the year should be around $195 million on the high end. Revenue is expected to come in at $151 million on the high end for 2020, and gross earned premium at $151 million, but earnings are still expected to be losses for this year, so no signs of profitability just yet. So I'll say this, it's a very interesting company, and they're in an industry that's, pretty much mandatory for most aspects. You need to have house insurance, you need to have renter's insurance typically, and soon I'm sure they're going to go into car insurance as well. That's something you need as well to drive a car. So they're kind of a needs-based business, if you will, and because they're a global player, it really opens up the opportunity so much more for them. In fact, when you look at this chart here, this is a massive industry, and we already know that Lemonade right now offers only property insurance in the US, so they can capture part of that $637 billion market, but over time, I fully expect them to offer every single type of insurance and gain access to the over $1.3 trillion market available, and guess what? This is just the US market. So really just imagine how big this business can be when they offer these products worldwide in many different countries. The scale is enormous. And you can tell that they're actually moving fast and, adding new products to their portfolio and trying to pull in more customers that way. And recently they launched pet insurance here, which is another massive industry in the US with many households having pets. So the potential keeps growing larger and larger for this business over time. So everything we've looked at, guys, from a fundamental level looks very good for this company. It's an exciting business, exciting growth opportunity, excellent balance sheet, potential is there. But the question remains, is this a good investment? To me, in my opinion, the company right now is very richly valued. It's trading at over a $3 billion market cap. They're not pulling in that much money in terms of revenue. They're still losing money with net income. And it's hard to justify such a high premium for this company at today's prices. Now, I think that if you're holding this company for 5-10 years, you have a long-term outlook, and you think that this is the business to disrupt the insurance industry, yeah, $3 billion valuation is cheap. This could easily be 20, 50, $100 billion company if they're able to keep executing, growing at the rates that they are, and be a worldwide player. So yes, from that aspect, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer that this is a good long-term stock if you believe this company is the company to do it. However, if you're a value type investor like myself and you're actually looking for deals out there, yes, high growth stocks do demand a premium, and yes, for that high growth, you gotta pay up. But to pay this much of a premium for this company, I think is a bit too rich, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some volatility come into the stock soon and see prices correct, 30, 40, 50% from where we're at today. And that's where I think a lot of value type investors will actually flood into this stock, because that would be obviously a much more attractive valuation. Now, that's not to say that there's no opportunity with this business. That's not to say that, buying the stock today is going to be a money loser for you. But I think that for me, the risk is just a bit too high right now. And although I like the business and, great balance sheet, great everything, execution, can't really fault them for anything, the price that the stock is at today is just too high, and I will be putting the stock on my watch list. I will be watching it closely, and if there's any new developments, if we see a big sell-off or anything like that, I will create a follow-up video on the stock if that's something you guys want to see, so let me know in the comment section down below. But either way, I'm really curious to see how many of you have actually bought into this IPO and what your future outlook for this stock and this industry really is. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to invest positively, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.